Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are going to help you rev up your metabolism this week. Because who doesn't need energy, weight loss, just all around feeling better? And especially now we're coming into the spring, it's time to get cleaned up and get moving. Right, Dr. Lewis?
If you can get me up moving, yes, ma'am.
He's coming along. And he's developed these fine ideas here of how to do this because he does this himself. Because all of us from time to time experience tiredness and fatigue. And, coming out of the winter, it seems worse for some reason because we've just been sitting on the couch a lot. And it's time to get rid of a lot of that stuff. It's time to shed it, right, Dr. Lewis?
Well, shed is a good word, yes.
Yes, okay. So we're going to help you with tiredness, fatigue, struggle to lose weight, cold hands and feet, thinning hair, low libido. This depresses me reading it. Irregular periods for women, poor sleep.
For men, I've heard PMS belongs to men also.
Bloating and constipation and more.
Sound like an old hee-haw song.
I know. So we want to figure out what's going on, get you to the root of it and get you feeling better and have a life worth living. So Dr. Lewis, what do you want to talk about today as far as that is concerned?
Well, we can talk about BMR.
Who?
BMR.
BMR.
Yeah, it's not a big fine revolver, but
what is a BMR?
It's called basal metabolic rate, if I can pronounce it correctly.
So tell us about it.
Energy sometimes seems to be not enough of it. It seems to be running and hiding from us. And for example, the BMR is, you've got to understand most of your energy is about 50% of it or so is used for the nervous system itself. 27% or so, I think, is used for the liver, which is about synthesizing glucose and ketone bodies as fuel for the brain itself. Women usually, I'm going to get hate mail on this one. Women usually have 5 to 10% lower BMR compared to men. And part of that is because when the typical woman has 25% body fat while the typical male has 15%. And fat cells in your body, for the most part, produces no energy at all. So lose weight. People want to lose weight, but they're always looking for the magic pill. There's not any magic. Eat half as much. Eat good stuff and eat half as much of it. And I had a sweet lady from Houston come up the other day. She said, "But you promised me." I said, "I don't know what I promised you, but I know what you're eating, and it's not going to work."
We should have called this show The Magic Bullet, right?
Yeah, or a silver bullet. But, folks, you're a product of your choices, and that kind of irks a lot of people. It's like, well, I didn't choose this. And I said, yeah, but you made 1,000 little bitty choices that did. For example, the volume of water, let's just say is 1, but when you crank it up 1 degree, from 211 degrees to 212, it expands 1,700 times. So, sometimes you just have to crank it up a little bit to get things going. Sleep decreases BMR by 10%. And, Janet, I'm sure I'm going to get into some of her notes because I know she's got notes. And sometimes we do funny things like we don't compare each other's notes just to see who can stump who. So she usually stumps me.
It's kind of fun.
For you.
Yeah. So many times people are trying. I don't know why they think that we are a weight loss clinic. I don't. There must be something on Google. I don't know. Because
we're not overweight, and that's a lot of little bitty choices.
And they'll call here and say, "But you do weight loss." I'm like, well, it will turn into weight loss many times if you start doing healthy choices and taking some things and doing low cost lab work. And they're like, "What about that shot? I'm looking for that shot."
Go to your MD, and I tell people I'm a chiropractor. I'm proud of it. I love being a chiropractor. I deal with musculoskeletal system and biomechanical stuff. But if you, and I'll get into that when we talk about mitochondria, if you deal with that and you throw in these supplements to support musculoskeletal system, guess what? Your body uses them all over the body for everything, every physiological function.
But, so many people want it quick, easy. They don't want to put any effort into it, because when you start telling them that weight loss has got to do with more than you just getting a shot, because somehow they think that if they get these shots that they're magically going to stay thin for the rest of their lives. And I tell them, that's like taking speed. That's what it's doing. It's like revving up your metabolism to the point that's not healthy. We see them be a high risk of heart attack or stroke on lab, but people are still fine with that because they're losing weight. And I guess what we're trying to teach you here, it's a lifestyle change altogether, as uncomfortable as that may be.
But it produces long-term comfort later when you don't have achy joints and things that are degenerating. And, oh, my God, if you take care of your body now, and it's just like taking care of your vehicle.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they used to spray the lawn. The lawn, if you took care of it all through the year, it would make a really beautiful lawn in the summertime because you nourished it. But there used to be companies that would go around and just spray the ground green and say, "There's your lawn," and you knew that wasn't a lawn, but it was green and it wasn't healthy and it didn't stay. And I guess that's what we're trying to teach you, is how to make different choices where it stays and it's not so hard and it doesn't come back easy. And I can tell you as a fact, I started taking a different product that we have here in our store, thinking that because it was more expensive, it had to be better. And it was one of our new DIM products. And DIM, if you don't know what that is, it helps eat up bad.
Diindolylmethane takes out, some of the estrogen mimickers.
Right. For women, if they don't take enough of it, they get thick through the middle, through the belly, and then this is my story. They get thick through the belly, and their shirts don't fit like they used to. And I've been taking DIM ever since I've had a hysterectomy about 12, 15 years ago, I guess now. And it got my shape back. It didn't make you lose weight, but it made your shape come back. So literally I've been in a size 8.
And she says, I don't do time.
And so I started noticing over the last few weeks, I'm like, I am gaining weight in the middle, and I don't really grasp why. It's like I kept telling Steve, I said, I'm getting fat. And he goes, no, you're not. He said, so is the little skinny girls that worry about it. And I said, well, that's why we stay thin, is because we are worried about it. And to me, when I'm this little, it feels big. And so I started going, what am I doing wrong? And I started looking at our DIM. And we have one, we've had product changes, which we take all this stuff. It's not like we're telling y'all to take stuff that we're not doing. We have 2 of them. One's called CDG Estro DIM. It's real expensive. There's another one that we use a lot more often called DIM Plus. I never really looked at the label about what had what in it. I just thought it costs more. It's got to be the better one. I'll just take the big one. So I've been taking this big one for about 3 months now. And the other day, we started comparing the labels on it, and the big one actually has less DIM, the registered trademark DIM in it, than the small DIM Plus that doesn't cost as much does.
Again, there's been a lot of product changes because of this supply chain issue.
Yes.
And the calcium D-glucarate, if you'll look that up, that increases a different detoxification pathway called glucuronidation of the liver, and that's generally much, much, much more helpful if you have a family history of cancer or have had cancer to help detoxification. Or
men's prostates. The CDG DIM we use more for men. That's who we give it to, is it helps them bind testosterone for a man, because indole 3 carbinol that's in there as well, like a lot of it, and that stuff is what's so expensive. But I didn't pay attention to that. I was just taking
prostate doesn't hurt.
So I was taking half of the amount of DIM I used to take, is what it came out to be, of what the other product was. And now over about 3 months, I'm beginning to gain weight. So I had to go back and listen to myself tell y'all why that was happening. And the minute I realized it, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not taking enough of the straight DIM. And I started doing the DIM again, the extra DIM. And by golly, it's beginning to come back off again. And yes, there's a headache that goes with it. I am suffering through it because it's actually altering the body's metabolism, your hormones. But it does
detoxes a little bit fast, which we'll talk about. And
totally fine with that.
Doesn't always cause a headache, but it certainly can. And all this time, she told me it was me causing her to have a headache.
But see, it's little stuff like this that people don't realize of what's happening. It's, for me, it's having no hormones. That is the way I keep my hormones balanced, is by DIM. And people don't realize that's... there was a kid the other day that said men's testosterone levels aren't lower than what they're supposed to be when they're young. And Brandy was arguing with him. It was a relative of hers, and he said that's just not true. And she said, actually, the older men have higher testosterone levels than the young men. He goes, that's just not true. She said, well, you have those men boobs on you. And he goes, so lots of guys my age have that. And she said, because they all have low testosterone
and higher estrogen.
Yes,
environmental estrogen,
which is what DIM does.
Fat cells create estrogen even in a man.
Yeah, so DIM goes back and gobbles all that back up and makes you have your shape back. So what we're trying to teach you here is there are things you can do besides just taking the speed course over to getting a shot, making things worse down the road, and having life-altering changes in lifestyle here. Right?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So the other one that I wanted you to talk about, which is one of our new products because people always associate weight loss with detoxing, and now we finally have something that they can detox with. DIM is one thing that is a detox, actually, but there are other products that actually pull out heavy metals and that type of thing, and that's our new product called Enviro Detox. So can you tell us why you were so excited about Enviro Detox?
Yeah, I am, but I want to talk about the mitochondria first because they're the powerhouses in the cells, and it's different in different cells because if this particular part of your body needs higher levels of energy, then you have more of these powerhouses called mitochondria, and they can, if you don't have them, they can't extract enough energy from the nutrients. And in order to do that, one of the things you have to do is get the bad things out of the way so that it can extract. Things can interfere with that because the other thing is enzymes, and it's very important in the mitochondrial function. They operate kind of in association with oxidative enzymes, cause the oxidation of the nutrients and what they do is form carbon dioxide and water. And when they do that, it creates energy, and that's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So to help you, and this Enviro Detox is not something I think you should take all the time, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but it has zeolite clay, activated charcoal, and something called shilajit. Yeah, you've got to be careful when you look at that and then try to pronounce it. You might say something that doesn't sound particularly good. And one of the things, I'm going off on another rabbit trail, one of the things that makes y'all so successful is your faith and your follow-through. For example, I talked to Marcia the other day, and I mentioned her on the last podcast, but she was referred to me by Jennifer. It's like, well, Marcia, you live in Texas. How did Jennifer in, I think, Oregon? And it's through horse shows. Now Jennifer's back in Texas. So it's people that refer and that builds faith. And I'm telling you, faith is as important as anything you do. So the zeolite clay, notice how I changed that. Janet's giving me the...
I am totally lost. Thank you for referrals back to clay. Okay.
Well, you know how a dog cocks his head when he's trying to understand? Well, Janet's doing that. You married me, so...
True.
Dietary fiber is very important in daily detoxification. Most of us don't get enough fiber.
Is this in the Enviro Detox?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I'm talking about in general. I'm being an educator, I hope, not an agitator like some people are over there. And so the fiber is like helps bind things and reduce the liver reabsorption of the toxic load, and liver is super, super important. The mineral content is very important because the bad minerals, the bad heavy metals can actually attach themselves, and that's where the zeolite clay comes in. It's really good to absorb mycotoxins, so think mold and fungus, and heavy metals, especially lead and mercury. And folks, if you or your kids are drinking sodas or Coke, as we call it down the South, everything's a Coke, you're getting mercury because it's full of high fructose corn syrup, and that has mercury in it, as well as you get it from other places. But it helps absorb that from the digestive tract and bind to these heavy metals and traps different toxins, and they kind of hold them for safe elimination.
Well, I remember the Indians used to eat clay to detox, I guess just out of the ground.
And it wasn't just the Indians. A million years ago when I worked at a cattle ranch, polled Herefords and F1 crosses, they had these people that would come to the edge of the ranch and dig up a certain clay to eat it. And I asked the owner of the ranch, why are they doing that? And they said they eat it. And I was like, I didn't understand. I was just probably 16, 17.
Seems like that would be... I mean, I realize that it's pulling off toxins, but that seems like it's dirty. I mean, I know it's dirt, but
she's
still,
from Fort Worth. She doesn't like dirt.
I like how this is encapsulated.
Oh, it's clean dirt.
That's right. I know.
So the zeolite, it's purified. So it's, I don't know. This is the way it's shaped. Something about being cup shaped and sort of a magnet for heavy metals. I'm not a biochemist. Then it has activated charcoal, and I love activated charcoal. I entered an email from this wonderful couple in North Carolina. I said, well, do bentonite and charcoal because, and I would have said do my environmental detox, but they kind of needed it right then and there. Activated charcoal, and we always carry it on our trips. We carried it to China and da-da-da-da-da, so if we got into some yucky stuff, it would help us. It helps in...
Food poisoning, that kind of thing,
yeah,
right?
Undesirable toxins. But the problem with charcoal, and this is why I tell people don't do it all the time, it also binds with the bad stuff, but it binds with the good stuff too. So it can bind with the minerals. So don't take it every day. You can take it for a month or two and then quit.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I really like that stuff. But now I'll quit for a while.
Janet has a male attitude. She said if a little bit's good, more's better. And I've seen her overdose on several things, and I can't tell her anything. I mean, no, she makes good choices. She married me, so I just leave it at that.
That's right, and I'm learning from your show here of how to do this.
Yeah, you're learning from my show. Thanks. So I'd like to talk about Shilajit, and this is the registered trademark one, so it's good. It's basically an ancient Ayurvedic powder extracted from the rocks in the Himalayas. I tell people, well, it's kind of a dark biomass that squishes out through the cracks of the Himalayan mountains. And it's been noted for its safety and efficacy.
We used to have that in a product for testosterone.
Male testosterone.
Right.
Except, and here's another thing with what we do, folks. That was a really, really, really good product, but I just couldn't believe it's worth the extra $40 that particular company charged. We give you great quality stuff, but we try to do it at the most reasonable cost. Where one lady called me and says, well, what about the price change? We've had several people ask. It's like, well, yeah, it's up 20% because the other company doubled it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can get it back, but that'll be an extra $20. No, never mind. We're always shopping the best stuff, and we'll never compromise on quality. But there are several different companies out there that'll do a really, really good job. But we do the ones that give the best value for what you spend.
Well, there's some products we never change because we can't find anything any different, so we just have to go up on the price because there's just no replacement for it. But if we can find one, we will.
But the price has not gone up as much as bacon or bullets, so y'all be aware.
Or gas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Shilajit really contains different minerals because it's coming from deep, deep, deep into the Himalayas, and it's, they say it's a biomass like the ancient tropical forest that's being squished out, but it contains fulvic acid and humic acid. And I know you've read about that on the internet and Facebook and all that. And some are better than others, and that's why we use the registered trademark. It binds to different toxins, improves endothelial function, and helps support a healthy microbiome. And your bacteria in your GI tract helps better genetic function or expression. So it binds with heavy metals, pesticides, organic pollutants. We have all of that. But, one of the really unique things that it does, it increases the length and the height and the depth of the villi of your intestines. And the villi are little, just millions of little fingerlings, which increases the surface area, which means you can absorb more of the nutrients that you put into your body. So that's one reason it modulates the gut microbiome. So it's a pretty serious thing. And again, I don't think you should take it every day, all day long.
And one of the things with that product, which is also another thing for just losing weight in general, is staying hydrated with water. Because if you're going to be using that and you're detoxing and then you don't drink any water, that has then gathered up all of these toxins that Dr. Lewis is talking about, and it has nowhere to go because you're not flushing it out.
It has to be filtered water, or you just get in lots of chlorine and fluorine and whatever the heck's in your normal tap water. So, make sure you filter it one way or the other. And even though it may be reverse osmosis in a plastic bottle, try to avoid the plastic bottles. And I know you can't always, so don't stress about it. But, we put ours in stainless steel as much as we can, bring it to work and take it home, and so you're getting less of the toxins.
So that's half of your body weight in ounces of water is what you're supposed to be drinking, not Cokes, not tea.
I wouldn't say what Janet weighs, because I used to say 132, and she said, I don't weigh that much. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. So let's just say she weighs 110, 120. So
I like that. Good job.
Let's say 120, that'd be about 60 ounces of water.
Right, that's right. Can you tell us how sleep helps or keeps you from losing weight?
Well, it lowers your BMR. But we need sleep. There are things that crank it up, though. We have to have sleep. You have to get deep restorative sleep that you get when you artificially get your vitamin D levels up. And, of course, that helps with calcium going where it should, back into the bones. So helps your musculoskeletal system as well.
So how many hours would you say someone needs for regular sleep?
Everybody's different. 7, 8, 9.
Okay, so if you're not getting that, you're probably not going to lose weight so easily, huh? Or if you're staying up really late.
Yeah, you stunt the detoxification process, the time that the body uses to help detoxify. And there's, certain areas that your body works on, the meridians. We talk about the liver being 1 to 3, and if you wake up at 1 to 3 all the time, it's probably because your liver's struggling and can't keep up. And the other thing is, you have to understand that people put things in their body that you have to use energy to digest and absorb. And I won't tell you who he is, but person that's probably a little smarter than me. He says, well, I'm not going to take your fish oil. I'm going to take this other fish oil that I won't name the name, because you get that at the health food store, and it's one of the healthiest ones at the health food store. He literally had to take 4 times as much to make the changes on lab and to help his cholesterol triglyceride profile and his HDLs. So he had to use 4 times as much of that less expensive cheap oil. And I said, well, cheap fish oil. And I said, well, you had to use 4 times as much energy to get it there. So how was that a win? And doing 4 times as much did not make it less expensive. And this man that supposedly is more intelligent than me says, well, I never thought about it. I don't treat myself, so nobody else should treat themselves either.
Which is why we use the lab work, so no one treats themselves.
Yeah, there's a difference between subjective and objective, and both of them have validity, but you have to put them together. You don't just use one tool. There's many different tools that you use to achieve best health.
So, speaking of that, can you tell me a little bit about why stress which is your body's fight or flight response, leads to increased production of the hormone cortisol. What does that have to do with losing weight or revving up your metabolism?
Well, if it's super high, the cortisol, super high or super low, you can, because that's usually an offset of super inflammatory processes. And when you get that stressed, you use way, way, way too many of your B vitamins that you don't get enough out of in your diet anyway. And I was reading the other day some research about thiamine, which is B1. And, it can be, you can be neurotic if you have a lack of that. Anemia, depression, sensory neuropathy, sciatica, trigeminal neuralgia, glaucoma, insomnia, and then the nervousness and anxiety. So when people say, I have brain fog, well, you probably have too much yeast, and that's causing too much inflammation, too much stress. So we kind of override that with benfotiamine, and then once you kind of kill off the yeast and replace it with good gut microbiome, then that helps. So that's thiamine. And
another fun fact that Dr. Lewis told me the other day that he's probably going to forget to he wouldn't bring it up. It's just something he told me, and I thought, this is really smart. Women with morning sickness, a lack of B vitamins. So if you've got morning sickness, which I wish I would have known that when I had my children, he and I were not together at that time.
Should have been.
Yep, should have been. But I would have skipped like 6 months of being sick if I'd have just known about B vitamins, and I had bad cortisol problems, so that makes sense.
Well, most of the time, I could say it's thiamine, it might be riboflavin, and many times it's B6. That's one of the reasons why to rev up your metabolism, I love our B12 methyl supreme, and I've talked about it before. It's got the riboflavin, the B6, the folate as in quadrafolic, which is the one, if you've got that 5-MTHFR, genetic SNP, that will work. And then it's got the right kind of B12, the methylcobalamin, not the cyanocobalamin. So, we talk about B12 and B6 a lot. So let's talk about B2, which is the riboflavin. It's necessary for red blood cell formation, antibody production, which means boost up your immune system and rev it up, cell respiration and growth. So that has to do with what we talked about earlier. It helps with the metabolize carbohydrates and fats and proteins, but we do too many carbohydrates as a nation. It helps with vitamin A to improve your mucous membranes in the digestive tract. It helps oxygen utilization of the tissues, helps with hair, skin, and nails, helps eliminate dandruff, and helps absorption of iron and B6. It's needed, riboflavin is needed for the metabolism of tryptophan. So if you metabolize tryptophan, that turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan, which turns into serotonin, which is one of the neurotransmitters that makes you feel the peace of God.
What is B2 in?
Our B12 methyl supreme.
Oh, there's B2 in there.
It's kick butt. Janet will tell you by 3 o'clock if I forget to take it. It makes that much difference in my energy. And she'll say, did you take it? I said, you're a woman. You've never asked a question you didn't know the answer to, so how can you tell? She said, you're not happy. I said, I'm always happy. She said, you're not as happy. You're not as animated. You're not full of energy. And I said, okay, well, I didn't take it, or you wouldn't have asked the question. Why don't you just say it instead of asking a question?
I'm being caring.
No, she's not. She's trying. It's a trap, guys. When your wife asks you something like that, I promise you, does these pair of jeans make my butt look fat?
You are good at those answers. They all look great on you.
Yeah.
And he's not telling you the truth. They look great.
No, we're flat out lying.
Yeah.
But, folks, it's a trap when your wife asks you that.
Speaking of jeans not looking great on you, we wanted to speak briefly about maybe trying to add a little extra movement into your day besides just sitting on the couch. For myself, I have personally started carrying my trash down to our dumpster on our lake without riding my golf cart. I'm walking it down there with my dog, trying to get in the groove of getting a little extra activity. So
all this time she said it was to keep the dog from being depressed. I didn't know it's for Janet.
But it does help. You start moving around a little bit more, and you start suddenly having a little more energy to do extra things. So we wanted to briefly mention that. I know it's a touchy subject, but getting out and moving a little bit more, not overdoing it, just add a little more activity to your day will help you with weight loss also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And if you don't have that energy, I know some people's immune systems are not very good, so you might consider adding in our product that we have called Immunocomplete, because it does help boost your energy some so that you can do those things, because when you got a low immune system, you don't really feel like doing anything extra. But once again, we're at the end of our show, and if you're not feeling well or don't feel like exercising, or don't understand why you're gaining weight and you're doing everything right, because there are a lot of people that listen to our show because y'all are really smart folks out there, that you would pay attention to health, and you can't figure out what's causing your weight issues, go to our website, greenwisdomhealth.com, fill out the health survey, which will recommend you a very low-cost lab panel and a complimentary consultation with Dr. Lewis that comes with that, with a functional medicine report and supplement recommendations, so that we can take the guesswork out of what you need to get a life worth living. And Dr. Lewis, would you please leave us with some inspiring words for this week's show?
Well, that's up to y'all to decide or judge if it's inspiring. But, I tell people all the time, there's not enough room in your mind for worry and faith. You have to decide which one you want to live there. Also, I say, I know right from wrong. Wrong's really the fun one, but then they take me wrong. But when you worry, you're literally betting against yourself. And this leads me to just part of what's in Psalms 91. It says, He will rescue you from every trap and protect you from deadly disease. Psalms 91.
Awesome. You guys have a blessed week. We'll be here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.